Thank you so much for coming today. This is a great turnout. Welcome to the first of what we're calling our community conversations here at the National Quilt Museum. We'll continue to do these on different subjects and topics throughout the year as those come up. But today, our theme is Black Paducah Then and Now. And this was spearheaded by our Director of Equitable Partnerships, Stacey Watson, who's sitting in the center up there. So we thank her. Also want to thank all of our staff here at the museum who worked to make this possible. And again, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Matt Collinsworth. I'm the CEO here at the museum. And we thank you for coming, and we hope you enjoy this afternoon.
Thank you so much for coming out. I am so grateful that you all are in attendance today, as well as those who are viewing online. And I just want to welcome you once again, like Matt said, to our first community conversations, Black Paducah Then and Now. And I hope that we get a chance to discuss some topics with the audience. We may have time, we may not, but I really do not want to waste time getting into our discussion. Before I introduce the panelists, I want to just first, once again, say thank you to all the staff here at the National Quilt Museum, and I hope you get a chance to enjoy the quilts after our discussion is over. And a quick reminder is starting March 1st, we will have free admission for our McCracken County residents. So you will be able to come in March 1st and enjoy the museum for free if you are a McCracken County resident. So, so I do want to go ahead and introduce our panelists, starting with Ms. Rhonda McCorry, Ms. Debra Young, Ms. Cheryl Sullivan, Ms. Betty Dobson, Ms. Eritrea, Zet-Zet in the community, and Ms. Savannah Caldwell. Thank you so much for being here, ladies. It's kind of interesting. We're here for Black history, and we're navigating into women's history as well. So we have a full women's panel today. So we're going to get into all of it, Black and women today. So I want to welcome everyone. And I want to go back to Ms. Rhonda McCorry, if you can introduce yourself and tell us what you do here in the community.
My name is Rhonda McCorry-Smith. I live actually in Caldwell County now, but born and raised in the country right here in McCracken County. They call it the suburbs now, but it still is the country. But graduated from Heath High School, graduated from West Kentucky Vocational School, graduated from PCC, graduated from Murray State. So I'm all Western Kentucky. But I appreciate this opportunity and will share some of my insight in some of the topics today.
Hello, my name is Debra Young, and I also went to Heath by the way of Jatan. I was on my way to Tilghman, but my parents moved when I was in 8th grade. But I currently, I'm here until the wind blows, but I was in Chicago, and then I just actually returned from Arizona. So I will also speak further.
Hello, I'm Cheryl Sullivan, Tilghman graduate, and I left Paducah and I went to Fisk University in Nashville, studied art, and then I moved on to Atlanta, and oddly enough, I went into accounting. I didn't do any art. I, had to pay the bills, so I retired from accounting, and now I'm a retired quilter and artist sometimes, but basically doing quilting in my free time.
Thank you. Miss Betty?
Hi, I'm Betty Dobson. I work with the Hotel Metropolitan. I've been here, I'm not going to tell you how long, but I've been in Paducah for quite a bit of time. I'm from Lyon County, but I've always loved Paducah, and so I'm glad to be here, and I hope I give you something that will interest you.
Hello, my name is Eritrea Cooper McCorry. Everybody calls me Zet-Zet. Some people do, some people don't. I'm a graduate of Heath High School, class of 95. Also, am a certified chef and caterer. I do not live in the city limits of Paducah. I live in McCracken County, but my heart is in the city of Paducah. My grandmother, she owned businesses in the city, so that's how I became familiar with the city of Paducah and my love for it. So I try to do my best to help my community as much as I can.
Hi, I'm Savannah Caldwell. I'm a senior at Paducah Tilghman. I'm also the president of our African American Leadership Club, and I would like to speak for the students today as we go on with this panel.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I want to take this back to Miss Rhonda McCorry and Miss Debra Young, and I want to first give our viewers at home some background history. Miss Janet Blythe wrote the book Upward Stride here that I have in front of me, and it's about the history of the local community college, West Kentucky Community Technical College. And in the book, she mentions that what started as we know, WKCTC, originally the founding institution name was West Kentucky Industrial College, which was founded by an African-American man, Mr. Dennis Henry Anderson. Now, he graduated from Lane College in 1893 and started the first high school for African Americans in Fulton County. Now, putting this into context, due to segregation, of course, Black institutions had to have Black teachers in order to teach Black students. So Mr. Anderson thought it was best that there should be such a school here in Paducah. So that building that we know as West Kentucky had roots in the community as an predominantly all Black, if you will, institution. And over the course of time, the name changed. There was some separation, of course. You had Paducah Junior College, you had West Kentucky that we know, and Miss Rhonda and Miss Debra had mentioned that they went to West Kentucky Vocational School, which was also a staple in the Black community because this is where mostly all of the African American students attended, separate from the other institutions in Paducah. Now, it was the third largest junior college in America during that time. But the doors closed in 1938, and when the doors closed, that's when your school opened, which was West Kentucky Vocational School. And this is the school that you two graduated from, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get into West Kentucky Vocational School. When we reflect on this time, I know you're going to bring your tissue. When reflecting on the time when you attended this school, what can you share with the audience, with our viewers? What did you learn from this institution as far as the impact, the education, what you take with you and teach to others? And that's for both of you.
I promise I will not cry, but my eyes are a little wet. I went to West Kentucky in 1976. As a student of Heath High School, I was one of the first that ever went to actual vocational school. Most people went to industrial education within the school that they were in, but they allowed me, with my grades and things, to start West Kentucky in my senior year. Now that's a standard, you know, they do that. But as I went, I quickly learned the BS I was putting out at Heath was not going to work at West Kentucky with Miss Sled and Miss McVoy and Miss Brody. So in that, I took the business program, and at Heath, I was typing like 15 words a minute. And Miss Sled quickly told me that will not get it, young lady. So I practiced, and I realized the difference was they put you on a test, and they walked around the room. They weren't hovering like the high school teacher, and I was actually typing 60, almost 70 words a minute in tests. So I quickly loved what I was doing, and the atmosphere we were familiar with because my mother, too, had gone to West Kentucky and graduated in 1947. So everybody back in the day didn't have the ability or want to go to college. So vocational school, you go to college, vocational school, or to the military. That was our choices growing up. And so choose West Kentucky because they have fun over there. Well, it wasn't as fun as we thought looking out from the outside in. So that was my start. And as I worked all these years, and I too am retired now, the things that the teachers taught us, just common courtesy, business courtesy, and all of that, every day I can say until the day I retired, I used every morning when I went in my office. There was nothing that was a waste of my time at the West Kentucky Vocational School.
Well, as far as myself, I remember just, I was laying in the floor looking at the stories. Not really a fan, but it just came to me. I was like, okay, I graduated in '77. And so I was in between, just like Rhonda said, you know, your choices was either going to the military or go to school, go to college, or go to West Kentucky. So I just made a decision. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I started out in business. And that was a good foundation for me because it did give structure. But I also was, I was a good student. So but then I finally realized that I wasn't cut out for business because I didn't want to be told to do anything by anyone. So I met some girls that was from Hopkinsville, and they were actually in the drafting department, and I could draw. So I ended up talking with Mr. Martin, and I told him that I needed to be in his class instead of business. So I did finish business, and I have an associate degree, which has helped me in a lot of ways as well. But then I went back and I took the drafting courses, and that opened up a lot of doors for me as far as I used to live in Chicago. And a lot of my jobs I almost mimic Mr. Martin as far as I've been in corporate. I've worked from architectural as well as engineering fields, and I've actually done a lot of different things because the way that he taught the course, it allowed me to be able to be in not only the architectural side, but the structural, the civil, and the mechanical side. So every time a job, and I worked a lot of times as a contractor, but I also worked in the corporate side as far as with State Farm. I was actually the first Black female that they had in their construction design unit, and because of the fact that when I first got into architectural, I couldn't print because Northside taught me how to cursive write. So Mr. Martin was like, you're going to have to learn how to print because architectural is the printing, you know, it's about your printing. But once I mastered that, it opened up a lot of doors for me. And at the time, I was actually, when I went into my field I worked for State Farm, and they were just getting ready to convert from the board to the computer. So that's what allowed me to go into State Farm. And some of my drawing works is still used at State Farm to this day as far as some of their sprinkler system designs. So,
And my favorite project?
her favorite project is that I did the layouts for Nantucket as far as laying out their phone system lines throughout the whole island. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, I do want to go back into the fun aspects in remembering some of the major events at West Kentucky Vocational School. Now, on our poster, we had the Miss Kentucky pageant on the front of our poster, and I know that was a big to-do during that time. I'm also aware that there were dorms at the college. There was, I think you said Miss Wilma Rudolph came.
Yes.
And Jesse Owens. And you also had sporting events and academic teams and football teams and all the things we don't have now.
Yeah. To get into
And May Day
Field Day. It was a big time on campus. Again, we were young, but my mother had gone there, and she had 9 certificates from West Kentucky. She's a master tailor, and she got 4 daughters that can't make an apron. She was a cosmetologist, and 4 or 5 of us are cosmetologists, but we can't do a head of hair. She went through carpentry. She went through everything. She had certificates for every occasion that she thought she may need. And where most mothers would invite you to lunch one day, she invites you to the lumberyard. So all that's because of West Kentucky. But getting into the quality of life there on campus now, how do they say, legend has it that there were a lot of parties, but they did offer socials and things. We had a tea building where they would have dances, bands come, or somebody play records and we could go out and dance. But they did have the field day, and Miss Wilma Rudolph came, and Jesse Owens came at different times as we were kids, and other people that were very popular in those days. And we didn't even know it was a treat until after the fact, until they were in the Olympics. Some of Jesse Owens had already been in the Olympics. But it was just something that our community was able to experience because of that school. Now, if you were a student and you lived in Hopkinsville, or I've got some friends in Chattanooga that went to West Kentucky, there were dorms. There was a girl dorm, and that's where those apartments are now. They were on that far corner. And then there was a boys' dorm across the street. And there the two should ever meet in the night. Or else that was going to be a problem the next morning. But in that, you could pay your tuition, and then your family could pay a fee, which was very minimal. I did my calculation. I went for 2.5 years, and my total tuition, because I had to get it subsidized because I was a bad girl. I had had a child, and my mother was all over me. So I had to do it on my own. My total tuition was $87 for the 2 years I was there. And I can tell you I've made a few $100,000 off that 87. So it was quite affordable. And my husband once asked, well, why didn't they just go to college? He saw an alumni activity where people were very successful. He couldn't believe how many Mercedes and BMWs and everything, Lincolns in the parking lot. I'm like, these people are tradesmen and women that are professional in their field, and they made good money and made good use of their education. And the reason they couldn't go to college, either the family couldn't afford it, and we were just not allowed in colleges during a lot of their time. So the truth be known, that is part of the life we had. Now, if you were a student and you went out in town, and this was before the brick house, I don't know where they go, to Happy's maybe, I don't know where they go, to get in trouble, if you had the courage to return to that campus, I'm sure Mr. Mathis or whoever the director was sitting on your bed, not standing in the door. He was on your bed because you're not getting in it. He would have a bus ticket in one hand and a message from your mother and father to convey. When you come back here, girl or boy, you're going to be in trouble. I just got a call from Mr. Mathis. And they put him on the bus and send him home. They didn't tolerate the disobedience and the uncivility in the streets and bringing it back to the school. As Miss Led say, no ma'am, you're not coming back in here. so those voices, were very strong. Another thing that probably, I don't know, are there any other business students here from West Kentucky? Okay, I see one. Well, she probably knows. If you went to the restroom, We all had to wear suits. We couldn't show up in jeans and a t-shirt or nothing like that. If you go to the restroom and you know how there's a new roll of tissue and you tear it apart and a little piece fall on the floor and you just go about your business. Well, in that school, you go to the bathroom. If a teacher went in there and saw that piece of paper, class was dismissed, suit coats come off, and you go to clean the restroom. So today, I'm always looking. And when I went to the new school, and this is no disservice to the maintenance staff or what, it was so dirty. I would wait till I had a break to go across the street to use the bathroom because I wasn't used to that at West Kentucky when I went to the new school. So they instilled a lot in us, and Miss Sled, I remember, if anybody know how Miss Sled drives, we get in the car with her, she taking us to her job interviews, and it's like, oh my Lord, I ain't gonna make it. But she took me to Golden Pond, and she told the class the day before, everybody had a hoopty if they had a car at all. It was just barely making it up to the school parking lot. And she said, if you think them old cars ain't gonna make it to this interview tomorrow, you call me and we make something happen. Mm-hmm. So I said, Miss Sled, my car ain't gonna make it. I just barely got to school this week. And so she took me up to Golden Pond, and 2 opportunities came up. Golden Pond and West Kentucky Allied Services was started in Mayfield, Kentucky. She said, we're going down this road, which way you want to go? And I said, let's go to Mayfield. So she took me there, and then she took me to Golden Pond too. But I didn't know what was waiting at West Kentucky Allied Service. It was Mr. Mathis. He was the director. And he made me I took the job, but he made me do shorthand, and I hated shorthand. So a lot of what they taught us, like I say, rings true today. If you know, you enter into a room, you owe everybody a greeting. Yes. You say good morning, hello, whatever, whether they respond or not. You just do that. And I do that to perfect strangers. So some of that holds true today and should be reinforced. But yeah, they did not play at the old school like we thought they were going to play. It wasn't as much fun. It was wonderful. It wasn't as much fun. The other thing, I know some of us have worked with people that didn't smell quite as fresh and clean as we'd like for them to do. If the teacher smelled something a little strange going on, dismiss class, to the girls' dorm we go, take off your clothes, they pass out washcloths and soap. And then we go back to class. That's how serious they were, because they couldn't have us going into offices and not know how to take care of our hygiene, because some of them probably didn't get that kind of detail at home, but you got it at West Kentucky. They were not playing. And I mentioned, you know, that was my sister that raised her hand out there. And just don't show up for a class and see who gets a call. It wasn't like skipping 3 days and then you get a call. Lady, Janice, Rhonda wasn't in class today. Whatever. So by the time you got home, the jig was up. You better be there tomorrow. So that's how it was for me.
Well, thank you. I just want to make sure. We're going to come back. Okay, I want to make sure we get to everybody on the panel. So thank you for sharing and giving us some insight on the ins and outs of West Kentucky and what it is, what it isn't, and what it could be. So I really appreciate it. I do want to transition quickly to where we are currently right now, which is the National Quilt Museum. So once again, I want to welcome everyone. You probably noticed we've been surrounded, and you are surrounded by quilts today. And one thing here is if you look at our quilts, it's more than just what we consider a hobby. It's an art form, and we want to display our quilts as art and make sure that we recognize our fiber artists and quilters in our community and all those who are online as well. We have a local quilt artist, Miss Cheryl Sullivan, who's sitting right here next to us. And we have the pleasure of being able to ask Miss Cheryl Sullivan, how were you introduced to quilting, and how does that run deep within you and the Black community, and bringing all those together?
Mm-hmm. Well, I was introduced to garment making first. I have a love for fabric. I used to make Barbie doll clothes, Chatty Cathy clothes, if anybody remembers Chatty Cathy. Yeah. Then as I got into high school, it was making garments at the last minute for a party or an event. And I had a couple girlfriends that we would get together and throw something together. Now, I used to watch my mother quilt or piece, putting the pieces together, but I can't remember her putting the whole layers together and seeing her with a big quilt working on it. But I can remember her piecing. So I still had a love for garment making. Now, when I was in college, I made my first wall hanging here as a project. Didn't know what I was doing, but I got it together and came out well. Later on in life, I taught myself to quilt. I would buy any kind of book I could find. I would go to exhibits, and that's how I started. Now, the quilts back here, I wanted to point out, this particular quilt was done by my grandmother. She was born in 1877. And when the program is over, if you want to come and look, very minute hand stitching, even as it can be. And you can tell it's one of the old quilt patterns, and it has yellowed over the years. I've tried to preserve it, but I'm very proud of that one. Now, this one was done by my mother. It's a double wedding ring, and it's made from scraps of clothing. And you know of our slave history, that's how quilts were made by the slaves back in the day. Old fabric that they, from old clothes that they put together. And that's how some of the Underground Railroad quilts were made. Now, there's a lot of talk now, and I don't know if anybody in the quilting world, they say the Underground Railroad codes are fake. They did not exist. And even in the Black community, they say because Harriet Tubman, Robert Smalls, Frederick Douglass, they say it's not true because there's no writing of it in their papers. Their papers about slavery and the Underground Railroad. But I am of a belief that it's not out there because it's supposed to be a secret.
Yes.
It's supposed to be a secret. And we've heard ladies talk about, well, they heard their grandmothers talk about the codes and what they were used for. So, and all of those were made from old fabric, old dresses, and I had one that had a dress in it that I used to wear, but I think we passed that on to some of my relatives up north, because I don't see it in here, but I know some of these were aprons and shirts, but that's what that is by my mother. And fast forward to me. I have a love of Egyptian art. I would love to go to Egypt, but I can't go to Egypt. So I made my quilt with all the Egyptian motifs and gold thread running through this quilt. And the back has different Egyptian patterns on the back. And that's that one. Now this one goes down to African theme quilt with proverbs on African proverbs. So I adorned that with the proverbs and the cowrie shells and other African motif. Now this one is the one I'm most proud of right now. This is a shout out to all the gray-haired ladies that have all the wisdom, and men too, that have all the gray hair. But it says, my wisdom is a natural wonder. And if you know anything about the Harlem Renaissance, the artist then, Romare Bearden is a Black collage artist. And he does the collage faces that, that are not natural faces, but they're put together with different patterns and just a different look, not a real natural look. So that's the one I'm most proud of that I love. But what I want to get back into is the art side of quilting, the real creative side, and I would love to do a series on the Black experience, starting from Ghana, slave trade, Jim Crow, to present. So that's a goal of mine, to start working on something like that once I finish all my projects of the commercial kind.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and explaining what your quilts mean to you. And overall, I want to transition and shift to bringing both of you together, which is Miss Betty Dobson and you, Miss Cheryl Sullivan. You are quilting, or you're a quilter. You run Hotel Metropolitan, where you also have the landmark Green Book location for Paducah. Those of you who don't know about the Green Book, this is a great opportunity to share what the Green Book is, what it means for Hotel Metropolitan, and then what it also means for the Black quilters who come to Hotel Metropolitan and usually stay with you. Ms. Dobson, can you tell us a little bit more about how all of these intersect?
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
And to start, at the hotel, we wanted to make people feel welcome. When they came, African American quilters would come to Paducah. We didn't know that there would be a lot of folks, but what we did know is that if there were one or two that were out there, we wanted them to come to the hotel. And it didn't really matter about your race. We just wanted folks to come to the hotel to see what we had to offer. And then we would have one or two that of color that would straggle in and would enjoy what we had. And I would always try to have a quilt exhibit of some type. We didn't have a lot of money starting out, so sometimes it was a local quilter, Miss Pearl Smith. Her daughter is Sheila Smith Anderson, and she was gracious enough to allow her mother's quilts to be on display. And folks came in during the quilt week, and they would look at it, and the word got out, and folks started coming back. And then they said, you know, you really should start feeding us. And so we started having a fish fry on a Friday during the quilt show. But then we realized that there were people of color and they wanted to have an opportunity to get together. So what we started doing on Thursday night, we would have a dinner. And folks would come and have dinner, and they would have an opportunity to learn from each other, or just to know that, well, there's other Black quilters other than myself. And they would discuss methods and things of that nature. And the conversation of the quilt codes, Underground Railroad quilt codes, would often come up. And we explored that. And, you know, as Ms. Sullivan said, a lot of folks don't believe them because they feel that way because they can't find, it's not written down in the books. But our history is oral history, and that's why you can't find it in a book. And that's why the Hotel Metropolitan exists, not to tell you all the secrets, but to educate you about what it was or what it meant to be an African American person from the early 1900s until today. And the quilts have been those quilts that were old and stinky, you know, back in the days. That's how I used to feel about those quilts. But now those old stinky quilts that my mom had, I've cherished. And I see her effort, her love that she put into those quilts. And I was thinking about what you said, that you never saw your mom complete a quilt. Mm-hmm. Me either. My mom never completed a quilt, but what she did, she would do, thank you, toppers. And so when she died 6 years ago, one of the first things I thought I wanted to do was to do a exhibit in her honor. And one of the ladies that came from Chicago, I think her quilter, her guild is called, I can't remember right at the moment, Needle and Thread, that's what it was called. And so when she saw it, she said, what's the name? You can't have an exhibit without a name. And I said, I don't know what to call it. I said, my mom, it's just my mom's quilt, and she was always so busy. She just never put a whole quilt together. And so she said, that's it. That's the name of your exhibit. Too busy to quilt. And so that's what we call the exhibit. But the hotel loves folks. And so to be able to offer this service to our quilters when they come here, to have an opportunity to have a meal, to learn some Black history, it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much
You're
for sharing.
welcome.
I know that definitely is an emotional, time to remember and reflect about your mom, but I'm glad that you are honoring her.
And I just want to share, tomorrow would be my mom's 100th birthday if she was still with us. And so I'm glad I can share about her.
Thank you. Thank you. If you are now tuning in, welcome to Community Conversations, Black Paducah Then and Now. If you're tuning in from home, thank you so much for joining us online. We have been discussing the importance of education, whether it's been learning or common sense, etiquette. We're learning about the importance of quilting in the community, what that means to us as far as the community here in Paducah. But I want to talk about what it means for the future of Paducah and the Black community here in Paducah. And I want to introduce Ms. Eritrea, aka Zet-Zet Rogers. Now, we just mentioned the Green Book and Hotel Metropolitan and how these are landmarks within Paducah.
Yes.
And for you, Ms. Eritrea, Victor Hugo Green started the Green Book to help Black people travel safely, driving while Black through the community. And we know that this particular area, or maybe we don't know, that this particular area has been surrounded by sundown towns. Right. So to navigate amongst all of these different places and cities, we have to think about, what do we do so that Black people can travel safely? Now, we're integrated. We have a way to be comfortable around each other, and there still seems to be segregation, unwritten rules. And because of that, we've established a way for people to be comfortable in their culture, heritage, and community and neighborhoods. And here in Paducah, Eritrea has created something known as the Black-Owned Business Directory to help people navigate businesses here in Paducah, modeling the Green Book. So, Eritrea, can you tell us, why did you start this book?
I've been working on this project for probably about 10 years. And it originally went back to the Green Book. I've known about the Green Book from my grandmother, and listening to my mother and my aunts talk about it, some of the stories or whatever. For my generation, it's not so much as where we can travel to be protected because we can't stay at the Days Inn or this and that. We would have to stay at the Hotel Metropolitan. It's not that way for us. So this idea came in my head. We were traveling, we were going out of town. I want to say maybe we were in Georgia or something like that. And if you don't know exactly where you're going, you get stuck at the hotel. I want to get my hair done, but I don't want to go to Walmart. I want to go to the Black salon. My little brother wants to get his hair cut. He doesn't want to go to Great Clips. He wants to go to the Black barber shop. We want to go out to eat. We don't always want to go to Texas Roadhouse. We don't always want to go to Golden Corral because their chicken doesn't taste like our chicken. So, is there a different type of buffet? Is there a soul food place? So if you're not of that city and you're not a local, you just honestly don't know. So it just dawned in my head that it's kind of like that in Paducah. We have the 8th of August and different activities and stuff like that. And if you're really and truly not from Paducah, you don't know how to get to Big Mike's. You don't know how to get to Michelle's. You don't know how to get to Big Ed's. You don't know how to get to those places that are for us, by us. And we lose the currency. We lose the business because now everybody that gets off of I-24 stays in that general area because their hotel is there, their food is there. Walmart has the hair care products, things like that. So I said, I want to do something like that for Paducah. So I started, and this is the first time, truthfully, that a lot of people even know that I'm behind this, because for so many years I didn't let it be known, because I have a great list of businesses and owners that I have worked on for years, and a lot of people have called me on the phone. They've tried to trick me to say that they were working with this person. They're trying to get my information, so I've had to protect it. And this is a rough draft of what I'm working on. I started it. I wanted to see what it was going to look like in a book. It has barbershops, it has restaurants, it has music, it has hotels, like resources. And I want people to feel welcome. I want people to feel welcome in our community. I want people to be able to spend their dollars with our people in our community. And I don't want us to get looked over. I'm tired of us getting looked over. So I worked really hard on this. I've got a little bit more to add, to this. I want to add some pictures and things like that because I have studied the Green Book quite often, and it's a little bit better than mine, but I'm working. This is my first project. But Miss Stacey, I was talking to her, and she said when she first moved here, I think she started out at West Kentucky, and she didn't have this. She didn't have a welcoming, being a Black woman and being professional. She didn't know where Michelle's was. She didn't know where Miss June was. She didn't know where Miss Sonny was. She couldn't go get her hair done. She hadn't been invited to those places. But if I can get this book completed, when she would have gotten her job at West Kentucky, it could have been offered to her. And she would have known where she could have got a home-cooked meal, a place like Big Ed, something like that. So I think it's important. And just kind of bear with me a little bit. I'm still working on it. We have community centers, places that the W.C. Young Community Center that rents out for parties and stuff, what we can afford. And people don't know that when they're not from here. So I just want us to be seen. And so just keep your eye out, this is my baby, and I will not let it go until it gets complete. But you can look on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. It's called Black Owned Business of Paducah. I try to share as much as possible. Miss Rhonda's son, George Wilson, he does a lot of different things, activities. He's a Black businessman, so when he does things with his organization or his business, I try to share it because, again, I want us to be seen. So just go to the Facebook page and look. You'll see carpenters, roofers. You'll see cooks. You'll see hairstylists, bakers. There's all types of Black-owned businesses that are right here in Paducah. And also, we're not limited just to Paducah. We do Illinois, which is right over the bridge, Metropolis, Brookport. I do have some that's in Cairo, some that's in Missouri, and a few in Tennessee. So just bear with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that's a really important, essential to Paducah and the Black community, and being aware of what is offered, what is here. And like you said, I work here at the museum, but I'm also a professor at West Kentucky Community Technical College, and I teach African American history and world history. When I moved here in 2019, that was something that I wanted, and I wanted to know where could I go, what can I do, you know, in my spare time, and where to get a home cooked meal. Yes, that was important to me. So I appreciate the directory being present, and I think that matters as well for those who are coming into the city, even for visitors who would like to come into the city. So we thank you for creating our Green Book of Black-owned businesses here in Paducah. So we talked much about the past and a little bit about the future as far as Black-owned business directory. I want to spend some time on the future generation, our students here in Paducah. Savannah Caldwell is coming to us from Paducah Tilghman. And Savannah, you've heard our panelists speak today about their past and going to school, what education was like for them back in the 60s and 70s, and how it shaped them. And now that you're a high school senior, I want to first ask you, what are you doing at your school, and what would you like to continue to do in the community? So just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in the community.
As I said, I'm the president of our African American Leadership Club, in which that is founded by Miss Rhonda, and she does an amazing job to help us learn more about just our history, our community, and everything that we can learn. And I think a lot of the things that they've talked about, the history, the Green Book, Hotel Metropolitan, and all of that, it would be lost if it weren't taught to us, because we don't get to learn it. Like, it has to be passed down to us. It's not something that people in my generation are willing to go look for nowadays. I think we spend a lot of time in our phones and on social media, and we're lost with the real world and the history of ourselves. And so that's one thing that I'm really big. I'm big on learning for myself to teach other people. I've went to several conferences. I've seen Bobby Seale speak in person, Martin Luther King's son. I'm trying to educate myself, because I know that my generation, we're not willing to do it ourselves. So if you have a friend and you try and push them and see, hey, this is cool, you should know this, then maybe they'll be willing to learn. And I'll say Miss Burris in the club, she does a really good job about trying to make it fun and make it relevant so that we will be more engaging into it. As far as school, I'll say that we've lost like getting the life skills that they've talked about, and tuition, it'll never be $87 for 2 years. For me, it'll be about $28,000. So it's like, it's gone up, it's crazy. But I just think the teachers and in general our staff, they're willing to help us, but we have to want the help. Because we don't get the life skills, we don't get the courtesy lessons, we don't get all of that. And it's supposed to be taught at home, but some of them, there's a lack. And so we see it whenever they're not mannerable in public or they're not respectful. And I think it's really lost, and we just have to come together and help them to figure out what they need to do in order to be better. As far as myself to be better, I'm really big on mental health, so I try and be a person that can be there for everyone whenever they're not necessarily feeling okay or feeling their best self. And I just think it's really important to let people know that there is someone out there listening and ready to hear you and be there for you.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay.
I just wanted to say, I wanted to give her a hand. If she is the president of the Leadership Council, what they did Friday night at Tilghman, oh my goodness. It deserves a round of applause. It was wonderful from beginning to end.
Thank you.
Now,
If that's a sign of our future, we're good. We're good.
now, Savannah, I know that you are the president of the African American Leadership Club. So since you're a senior at Tilghman, I know you get the question, what are you planning to do? So what are you planning to do now? And I'm putting you in the hot seat.
After high school, is that
After high school, yes.
Okay, I would like to attend WKCTC for 2 years, get all my general things out the way, and then transfer to SIU Carbondale to get my mortuary degree. And at some point, I would like to have my own funeral home right back here in Paducah.
All right. And I think that's excellent, because you still would like to come back to the community and start your own business here and contribute in that way. So what do you think the future generation actually may need in order to be successful here in Paducah?
to be more open-minded, to say the least, because I think we're so closed-minded in the sense that we see on social media, we see rappers and influencers, but we're not seeing the work that they put in. We've lost our sense of work ethic, and we just want the money and the things, materialistic things behind it, but we don't have the sense of independability and the sense of working in order to get to that point. So I think we just need to come together and make sure that we know the true foundation, how to get there.
Perfect. Excellent. I'm happy you are coming to West Kentucky. And you're more than welcome to take the African American History class.
Yes.
So I will also mention, we didn't get a chance to get into one of the most important events here in Paducah, known as the 8th of August. And I would just like to open this up briefly, to talk about the importance of 8th of August, why that is important to Paducah and the Black community. So if one of our panelists want to speak on the 8th of August, and actually, Savannah, let me come to you because you're getting it from a younger version of the 8th of August. So what has the 8th of August meant to you growing up here in Paducah?
I honestly did not know the history behind it till in African American Leadership Club, Miss Burris played us a video about it and actually let us know the history, because before that, I just thought we were just getting together to have fun. You know, you see everybody at the park and all the vendors set up. But whenever you actually learn the meaning of it, it becomes so much more enriching and enlightening to actually be a part of. And I feel like now today, the fun side of it, even all of it, it's getting lost because after they moved it from our park at Stuart Nelson, I feel like we just lost it and didn't really get back in tune with it as much. But now it's starting to make a comeback. You know, we still have the parade, you still have all the basketball games. And I think if we get more people involved and the more we get people to learn about it, they'll be more willing to keep it going.
Now, for our viewers who are watching from home who are not familiar with the 8th of August, I would like, if you are comfortable, Miss Betty, could you explain what the 8th of August, or our panelists from this side can speak?
Well, the 8th of August is a time of celebration. That's when the slaves in this area learned of their freedom. In fact, some people call it I call it the other Juneteenth, because recently Juneteenth has been getting a lot of notoriety, and the 8th of August is the largest, oldest celebration in Western Kentucky. It's documented. And so this celebration that we get together and come together as a family, and if I have to say what is the importance of 8th of August, I think that's what it is. It's the celebration of family. People come from all over I'm, like I said, I'm from Lyon County. My husband is from Paducah, and he has a large family, and his family travels from Florida, Ohio, wherever they are at, and their kids, because they have been brought up the same way. They all travel back to Paducah, like the Sparrows come back to Capistrano. It's almost the same thing here. And even though some of the younger people may not recognize the history, they feel the love and want to come back, if for nothing else, just to have that love and security that you feel during that particular time. So that's how I feel about it.
Go ahead, Debra, because
No, and even for me, being here in Chicago, I was more so got to know what Juneteenth meant there. But as far as like even coming back home, I would always come back home for the 8th of August. And what I remember as far as growing up here was that it was a chance for all of my family to be together. And just to see how my grandmother cooked for days, but there's one incident where my grandmother did these racks of mutton, and we had 2 dogs.
You have to say what mutton is.
Mutton is yeah, but it's goat, right? It's sheep. Okay, but this was the kicker. My grandmother would make this, and it would be so hot. But we had 2 labs, Ben and Flip. And Ben was a tall black lab. He got up on the counter, and like I said, she had racks. This dog, they ate every bit of that mutton on the 8th of August. And my grandmother, but it was so wild because when we went in the house, Flip was up under my grandmother's bed. Ben was sitting in the living room like, hey. But that was the last time them dogs were allowed in the house. But they ate every bit of the meat and left the bones. But yeah, with the dogs. But that's what I remember as far as like being able to be around my family for the 8th of August. But then it's also, like you said, the Juneteenth is very big in Chicago, and they have a big gathering and different things, but it allowed the Black community to come home, as far as their families and stuff. So that's what 8th of August reminds me of. And then being able to go to Stuart Nelson Park. And man, that was like the thrill. And majority of my uncles, my oldest uncle, he was from Michigan. So their families used to come here. And that's how we were able to get together as a family.
Could I say something about the Stuart Nelson Park? Yeah. Something about the Stuart Nelson Park that I remember coming up. You would have to go there like the day before, or maybe even 2 or 3 days, and camp out, and to find your perfect spot so it would be there for you and your family. So the 8th of August, it was it's Black history, but it's just love and family, and that's all I want to say.
That's fine. And when I look into the audience today, I know that most of you are natives of Paducah, and I see a lot of people in attendance, and I do want to ask and open up the discussion, what are some fond memories that you have of the 8th of August? If we have someone that will be eager to share or share a memory, because it is a discussion. You have lots of them.
Go with it. Give us one.
Titchworth, I'm part of the Titchworth clan, and if anyone knows the Titchworths are in Paducah, of course, my mother was a Titchworth, and we still have for the last 2 years, we haven't had a family reunion because of COVID, but we plan to have it again, start back again this year. So, but one of my fondest memories was, I think it was back in 1982. Back then we had it at Stuart Nelson Park every year. Yeah, I'm the one, me and Ray and probably Gregory, we would go out there at like 4 o'clock in the morning, sat at the gate until they opened the gate so we could go in and get the place where we would have our reunion, because there was one
large one
thing there that we needed because it was so big, and our family just works as a really big family. But my fondest memory was, like I said, like in 1982. I can't remember the black guy that played on the TV show.
Warren.
Huh? Warren. He played.
Michael Warren.
Was that the one played on the TV?
The cop show. Michael Warren on the
Hill Street Blues.
The black guy that played on there.
Michael Warren.
His father, for some reason, was in Paducah that year, and of course, we having such a big family and so many people, he came over to our booth and talked to us. So that was one of my fondest memories of reunion.
Yeah, my mother taught him, and he used to come to our house.
Okay.
Along with Big House Games.
Yes.
All of those, they used to come because my mother taught, way back Lincoln days.
Okay.
And Michael Warren would come and stay down in the next block. So, and we were mad because he wouldn't come and play with us. He just stayed down there and wouldn't come and play with us.
Like that was one of the fondest memories we had. But we had a big time every year. So, yes.
Thank you so much for sharing. I see that we have a lot of children in attendance and probably some at home watching. And I just want to ask the panel, as far as advice for the future generations, thinking about education, thinking about the community, what is some advice that you would like to share now that they are becoming the future generation, both here and online?
I would like to say, I would like to see our young public experience as much as they can. You know, if they stay in Paducah, they may not experience a whole lot. They may get their education here and they may want to stay here. But please take the time to get out of Paducah, experience other nationalities, experience other food, other events, so you can open your mind up to, you know, a bigger world.
Exactly. And I will add to that, having been born and raised in Paducah, and, you know, like I said, went to all these schools here, it wasn't until I decided to go back as a non-traditional student to Murray State, and my major is international business, that I realized there was something other than Paducah. My mother made sure we traveled, you know, Chicago, St. Louis, New York, whatever. But when you get outside of these walls of the United States, it's a different world. Everybody don't love us, and we have to learn to live accordingly. And so any of you young people that go to college, if you have an opportunity to do the semester abroad, do that, because you see things and you hear things that you would never hear in Paducah. I was fortunate enough, my employer, H.B. Fuller Company, paid for me to take a semester abroad, even though I was a full-time worker and a student. They reimbursed me for every penny I spent and was able to. So put yourself in the right place like you have a plan. I was able to do a symposium to study the European Union and perform an analysis on their plan before they put it into use. So there's opportunity out here. You have to put yourself in the right place. Yes, I went to West Kentucky, but Murray State has the best international student program in the United States. It's at the top of the list. I had a professor friend that went to Berkeley to see how they did their international service, and they said the best in the country is in Murray State. So you have all these resources. Use that, and I've applied what I learned at Murray State. I've been around the world 5 times in the work that I do in probably 40 countries, and I never could have done that if I stayed here in Paducah. But I'm back here, and that's why I apply my service now as a retiree to Paducah, because I love it. But these young people have opportunities we never had. We had to go to West Kentucky, most of us, and now they can go anywhere. But be very careful.
And for me, I would say just even having the opportunity to have all of the different courses that was taught at West Kentucky, even on the business side as well. Now I'm actually studying online for being a full stack developer, dealing with the web pages and actually coding. And I actually got the coding background from West Kentucky in business. So if anything, I would say looking at how everything is set up with the computers at this point, you know, you don't have to just choose one thing. You can be different, you know, parts of different, especially with the internet side, you can have a wide range of different classes and opportunities to just get involved in. So that would be the biggest thing, because like I said, as far as from the architectural to business, structural, I've done a lot of things just from the things that I received at West Kentucky, and grateful for it.
Thank you. I do want to take a few minutes before we wrap up for the afternoon to open for discussion. If you have questions from the audience, I'd like to take questions from the audience for anyone that is in attendance to ask the panelists. If you have questions, we have a couple of minutes left for those of you who are interested in asking any questions to any of the panelists. Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering in Paducah if there was a central black business, like a downtown or a place where black professionals might have been located, black grocery, like a business district
Like a historical black business district?
during the Jim Crow.
It was all over. In every neighborhood, most of us had a grocery store, a jitney man. Do you know what that is? Somebody to drive a little taxi. You know, pick up Miss Lady to go to the beauty shop, to the grocery store. We had a dentist. We had doctors that were here in Paducah, and I think her grandfather prepared all the teeth for all the dentists in Paducah.
Yeah.
Now,
what
particular area was this in
It
Paducah?
was in, like, the south side had groceries
Okay.
and had the jitney man. The north side had
north
the jitney
side
man
had,
and had the
and
groceries
doctors
and
and
doctors and stuff. So each community, you have Rolling Town, south side, north side. I think they're calling it Upper Town now. And Rolling Town, Arcadia, those neighborhoods, most of them, we had most of everything we needed. Beauty shop, barber shop. And then integration came, and it, exploded because we could go to Biggs, we could go to whatever, but we couldn't always go to Biggs. We had to go to Leonard Simon's. And so when things changed with integration, it kind of killed that in most communities across America, not just in Paducah. But we had the freedom to move more about the city. We could cross the tracks and have access, and that's kind of where our black businesses have gone. But in lieu of some of the political environments we've been in the last several years, people are going back to their entrepreneurial skill and digging in there so they can make a legacy and generational wealth for their families. But for a while, we got lazy and went to corporate America wherever we went, and we don't have the generational wealth to pass on to our family always. But it was all over Paducah. You had these community centers that had pretty much everything you needed. Little restaurants, grocery stores, nightclubs, liquor store, whatever you needed. You had it in your little neighborhood.
The cleaners at 12th and Harrison.
Yeah, so all of that was just dependent on where you were. You had it.
Any other questions from the audience? We have time for one more for our panelists. Yes, Billy?
Good morning, ladies. Good morning, gentlemen. I just wanted to ask in particular, what is the oldest, most successful black business in this community that you see influence a lot of what took place and helped really keep the community going from your experience?
Right now, the only, of course you have the black churches, that's historical. They keep our communities together. And, we tend to go in our communities. We have a lot of ministers here, and that they're critical to our neighborhoods. They keep us bonded. But now we have on the south side of Paducah, the WC Young Community Center, who is the host for the majority of the 8th of August activities during that holiday weekend. And so a lot of activities happen there, and black businesses, other than Happy's, I don't know, because if you can get a good burger and good pig feet at Happy's, life is good. So as far as older, I don't know, most of them are gone out of business, just because the cost of doing business in the city of Paducah has gone up, and you have to do a lot of business to maintain the taxes, the laws, the whatever rules they set out for the week, all of that costs money, and a lot of small businesses can't afford it. Labor is up. So we are totally integrated at this point, and we don't have just a business there.
Miss Betty?
I would like to say, though, I interviewed Miss Velma Hammock. You all remember Hammock Funeral Home, Speedy.
Wait, you have to mention Speedy.
This guy,
You have to mention Speedy.
Well, I interviewed her in 1994, and I think she died in 2000. But when I interviewed her in 1994, she told me that she had the oldest business in Kentucky. And it was 100 and I can't remember exactly the year that she gave me, but it was 100+ years old at that time in 94. And she died, I think in 2000, I believe she did. So, when you look at it from that standpoint, 16 years later, it was 2000, not that way. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that she had one of the oldest business in Kentucky.
Can you share what business that was?
She was a undertaker.
And Speedy, you got to talk about Speedy.
Who Speedy is.
Who was Speedy?
Speedy was a petrified man. He, for you that don't know who he is, he was a transient that drowned on the riverfront, and Mr. Hammock used a
Embalming.
an embalming formula that petrified the man. And I think that's when they buried him, maybe in 98, 94, right after. Yeah, because I think when I interviewed Miss Hammock, she had told me she didn't feel like she would be here much longer, and that she wanted to make sure he was buried. That she knew that he was buried. So.
And it was on TV. They always spotlighted.
He was on That's Incredible.
That's Incredible. Yes.
Yeah.
That magazine came to do the interview.
Okay.
But
Speed.
Miss Speedy was this standing body.
Petrified man, and he would be there at the funeral home. My mother said they danced with him at the skating thing. I don't know. They said they'd wrap him on their feet and have a part. I don't know. Now
I never saw
might
Speedy.
be a little.
I did.
Never saw it.
Standing in the corner. Like this.
Look out,
Yeah, probably so.
So we're learning about Speedy, the man who lived forever. Yeah. Forever and ever and ever until he was properly buried here in Paducah. And yes, what we think for the most part. And I know there was another question we had. I can take one
Benny
more.
had one.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think Boris, this gentleman had asked about black businesses, and I think we have to give VA's body
shop.
because his dad running it and the son is still running it.
Oh,
And he's been in business for, do you know how many years? 50 years.
50.
And he's still in existence.
So that's one. Yeah.
VA's Body Shop.
Mhm.
Okay.
Over here on South.
Is it 2nd Street or 3rd Street?
3rd Street.
Third.
Okay. Thank you so much. Well, I think that is all that we have time for this afternoon. I just want to take the moment to say thank you for all of you attending on this Sunday, this afternoon. You could have been anywhere else and you came here to the National Quilt Museum. Those of you who are at home watching or abroad, thank you for tuning in and watching. Students who have come, thank you so much for being in attendance as well. I also want to thank the National Quilt Museum staff as well, Becky, Laura, Rachel, Matt, Vicky, all those who are in attendance and those who contributed to this program. Thank you so much. And before we wrap up, I just want to make sure that everybody once again knows that we do have free admission for the month of March for McCracken County residents. And I also want to thank the panelists for being here today to share the history of Paducah, Black Paducah, where we're going, where we've been, what we're doing. And I'm happy to be here. I'm originally from Southfield, Michigan, and so I have come from a different part of the country, and I was welcome over a course of time. Of course, COVID, you didn't see a lot of me, but I'm here at the Quilt Museum. I'm teaching at West Kentucky, and this city has grown on me
over the course of time. And you've been so welcoming to me in allowing me to be a part of this community. And that is the reason why I wanted to share the community with the museum and the museum with the community. And I'm glad that we were able to merge both together today. So thank you so much for being in attendance. We also have gift bags for all of our panelists for being here and sharing your time. So if you can hang out a little bit afterwards. And the Quilt Museum is open for you to look at our quilts today. If you get a chance, we have new exhibits up right now, so you can explore. It's not closed. We are here for you today. And once again, thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon, a great evening, and have a great week. Thank you so much.